the records. They show, starting in 2000, 2001 school year, first grade, defendant, grades are all over the place. He's a first grader. Comments are supportive. That kind of continues for the next couple of years. You get to fourth grade. Mostly now he's at B's and C's. Comments are still generally supportive. He's clearly got an attention problem. He wastes time, they tend to say. Fifth grade year, now he's mostly at C's. Again, teachers are supportive. Which, by the way, again, his parents paid to put him through private school. They did everything they could for this kid. Sixth grade, you see comments like he's not working to his full potential. They're requesting parent-teacher conference. Continues to work below his ability. Needs to complete assignments. He gets F's in math, D's in science, C's and D's in language arts, F's and C's in spelling, C's, D, and an F in social studies, and gets marked for wastes time. So we don't have any records for the next sixth grade year, but we know he gets held back in sixth grade. So then seventh grade, towards the end of seventh grade, May 8th to May 9th of 2008, the attendance records show he was suspended for a day and a half. So already he is not doing well. And that would be before he visits his father on the trip to Texas later in the summer. The records go on. They're not great. There's decreased performance in early 2010, which I believe that equate to his ninth grade year. And then later that year, so it would be actually the next school year, or beginning of the next school year, where his father commits suicide. Now, is that sad? Is it tragic? Sure it is. Does that mean you get to kill 4 people? No. And we'll talk about it a little more. But 2011, in March, he gets suspended for 10 days. And then in October of 2011, he gets suspended for 2 days. Remember, his parents went in to try to make sure that he did not get expelled. He rewarded them by getting suspended again and getting expelled. In fact, you can see some attendance records where student did not go home last night and did not come to school. Student is 18. Mom doesn't know where he is. He didn't come home last night. You see a couple of notes like that. Because that's what this defendant was putting his mother through and the school. Now you can see from those records, it's actually, I believe, page 265 of the Metro Health records, if you're interested, that the defendant's first daughter, Mackenzie, is born September 20th of 2012, which means that he had already gotten Caitlin pregnant 9 months before that, and that relationship went badly. So, some of these slides. October 13, 2012 through October 16, 2012. The defendant checks himself into whatever hospital this is, Metro Health. I'm going to call it Metro Health. He claims he's having suicidal thoughts. He's feeling, see what he says on this particular slide. He came in with bruising all over his body due to his wife and him having physical arguments. Now keep in mind, this is Caitlin. This is his first wife. This is not Jamie. Patient states that him and his wife have been having physical arguments over the comments he makes. Patient wants to kill himself, has no plan. Patient doesn't want to harm anybody else. Patient also with black eye and bruise on left forearm. Patient states they are from his wife. Per patient, wife is not abusive. He is abusive to her. Go through these records where we see it. Now, remember too, when he's talking to Detective Anderson, he admits to this. He agrees that he abused Caitlin. He was the bad guy in that relationship. More records from this visit. Patient feeling depressed due to having a lot of fights with wife. Few days ago, attempted to take pills and suicide attempt was stopped by wife before he could take them. See, it's all a manipulation tactic with him. He's throwing a fit and forcing other people to take care of him. like Caitlin. Had a fight with his wife yesterday, punched her during the fight. And then denies history of alcohol use, other stuff. Denies drug use, although we know that's not true. And then we get, again, same visit. And about middle of the paragraph, wanted to roll an anger management program to get a better control of things going on in his life. 3-week-old baby, new house, recently married. Was also concerned that the argument with his wife 3 days ago escalated into physical violence, expressed that he would never do anything to hurt her and that he only grabbed her and slapped her a few times. And then another part of that visit, and this is kind of in the middle of the thought, but on October, they didn't put the date, but October of 2012, clearly before this visit, patient's wife came into the emergency department stating that she had had a physical altercation with her husband. Wife reports being pushed by a patient and hitting her head. Wife was given pain medication and discharged to home from emergency department. So we see who the problem is here. And again, there's more things like that in those records. I submit to you that you can't go through 6,000 pages of records. That's why I have done it for you. October 27th, so still with Caitlin. This is probably the end of being with Caitlin. Defendant goes to Parma Community Hospital for a cut on his fourth finger because he punched a glass, causing it to break, cutting his finger. This was the incident where it got really bad and he choked her, but you see, like, he had cuts on his finger. And notice here, it says, it's a little harder to read than I'd hoped, but they're waiting to take him into custody on this set. It says the police department is waiting to take him into custody. And it's my eyes are not as good as they used to be. So I apologize for that. That makes me concerned about some of the rest of these slides. Yeah, right there. So where it says disposition physician, you go down about 3 lines and it says disposition, discharged from the emergency department. Condition good, discharged to police custody. That's the end of the relationship with Kate. Remember that he broke a glass over her head? Well, this was the result. He went to the emergency department to get his hand fixed. There you go. Notice, too, this is all before the head injury. Because on December 15, 2012, he comes in with this head injury. How did it happen? Well, he says he doesn't remember, but his friend was there and reported that they were at the East 93rd Street gas station, and the defendant saw a friend who owed him money. His friend reported that the defendant and the friend got into a fight over the money. And you can look through other parts of the records, but the other guy swung at the defendant, causing him to fall and hit his head on the ground. And he lost consciousness for 10 seconds. That's the defendant trying to muscle up money from somebody. That's why he got a head injury, because he's going around being violent. And also in this visit, he reports, I don't have a home, I bounce around, I'm staying with a friend. The relationship with Caitlin had ended by now. Remember, they were only together for a month or two after the baby was born, and she got out because she saw the writing on the wall. So he was the same person before the head injury that he was after the head injury. A couple other fun things in this period of the records, if you happen to look. Defendant admits to being a daily marijuana smoker, things of that nature. So we know the defendant, at this point, he's homeless. He's homeless because he chooses to be so and really bouncing around at friends' houses. But eventually, July 2015, we know that he meets, and this is actually in the records, didn't put this on a slide for you, but it's in there, that he moved to Florida in July of 2015. In July of 2015, he'd go to West Palm Beach to live with Richard, out of the kindness of Richard's heart. He is taking in this defendant, who is Nick's friend. Remember, Jamie, he meets Jamie through Nick. He's now both of their friends, but they don't get married yet. Jamie's not pregnant yet. Because we know that he marries Jamie in November of 2015. So in December 21st, 2015, now you heard from Tammy Fox. She was one of the Zoom officers. What'd she tell us? She responded to a situation where Jamie was suicidal, and they took Jamie to the hospital. There was no domestic violence. So again, just bashing Jamie. Then we heard from Scott Thomas, who told us January 3rd, 2016, again, still in Florida. Jamie is 5 months pregnant, which again, you can do the math there. She's only been 18 for 4 months at that point. So the defendant had impregnated another 17-year-old, and she is suicidal. So
Non-statutory aggravation.
she is taken to the hospital. Again, nobody says anything about domestic violence there. Remember, Richard's around. Richard's there. So then in January 2016, after that visit, the defendant and Jamie moved back to Ohio, and now they're living with Laura. So again, two of the people that this defendant killed, and even the third one, they all took him in. They treated him like family. They helped support him. So April 27th. We heard from Officer Sestak of the Cleveland Police Department, April 27th, 2016, about 4 a.m. Now, keep in mind, this would have been like right after Bella is born. They're called. There's an incident. And remember, Jamie was saying then that the defendant attacked her and choked her until she urinated on herself. Now, remember, too, this is actually in the, I believe that the officer testified about this, that like the defendant was claiming that Jamie attacked him and pepper sprayed him. Well, remember, we have some insight into this. Paul and Lisa Svensson told us that they went over and they smelled pepper spray. This is that incident. Baby had just been born. So what's going on here? What's interesting about that? Jamie went to the hospital. Jamie's not there. Paul and Lisa get there because law enforcement has told them to come pick up the child. Well, that's interesting. The defendant's still there. Why do they need to pick up the child if the defendant's still there? So, of course there was a smell of pepper spray. The defendant choked Jamie until she urinated on herself. And what do we have to kind of to show us that? Well, what do we know? The defendant has told us that he choked Jamie in her final hours. He told us that he choked Jamie. This is his go-to. This is what he's been doing all along. Watch as the records progress. May 12, 2016. Kind of interesting, and I plugged that in so you can see. Oh, I'm sorry. This one's actually from August 10th of 2016, just a FYI. There at the bottom, the defendant said he attended to 11th grade and dropped out when parents kicked him out of the house, was kicked out for smoking weed. Just to be clear, that we all know what the reason was. He also, clearly he couldn't keep a job for more than a couple months, but he knew why he got kicked out. He knew the reason why he decided to live homeless, smoking weed. They would have taken him back. He just needed to not be a criminal, which is not unreasonable. So this should be May 12, 2016. And here we have the defendant saying he feels like a terrible person, all that stuff. He often gets angry and sad. Defendant has been feeling that way for a long time. A year ago, he was homeless for 6 to 8 months. Had been married since November 2015. There you go, in case you're wondering where it is in the record. Baby is 2 weeks old. So we know, I believe maybe the next slide, he says, yes. So there at the bottom, he says, last time with marijuana was January 2016. He's been studying for religion. He used to use it daily, quit cold turkey, and after quitting was more irritable and angry. Plus, let's go up above. Again, this is May 12, 2016. He says, have you ever been a victim of physical, sexual, emotional abuse? No. Have you ever been physically, sexually, emotionally abused by, or have you ever physically, sexually, emotionally abused another person? He claims no. And have you ever witnessed? Well, he says saw fights in jail, so he's responding, but he is not a victim of physical abuse. So then we get Sergeant Dale Carlton, you heard from the defense. August 28th of 2016, he said he responded and Jamie was sitting on top of the defendant and he was holding her arms. What's interesting about that is that he agreed that Jamie said that the defendant had been beating her for the past year. A couple days earlier, the defendant grabbed her arms and twisted them while she was driving, causing the car to spin out. You may remember now which of these this was. And then that day, August 28th, she told the defendant she was leaving. He got upset, grabbed her, and began to choke her. There's that choking again. Now, it's a shame. She told the defendant she was leaving. Oh, that she could have been as strong as Lisa Stenson at this time. Oh, that she could have left this defendant at that time. So then we end up, and they start to get hard to read. This one is from September 4th, 2016. So, the paragraph says, history of violence or victimization. Patient has been physically, verbally, and emotionally abusive to his wife for the past year. Patient states that he will grab her so hard that he leaves bruises and has hit and choked her in the past. History of trauma or abuse. Patient denies. Right there in black and white. That's him alone talking to medical professionals. In their family list, you see again, patient states he is not close with his mother or stepfather after he was kicked out at the age of 18 once his parents discovered he was smoking marijuana. Except that we know that Paul and Lisa Svensson have still been doing everything they can to support him and even helped the defendant and Jamie move in and even came and helped them with the baby months before this. That's the kind of gratitude they get. If you look through the records, you'll see he's discharged from this day on September 17, 2016. Well, then we move and we heard from Officer Zimmerman and Officer Adams. The French called them. They described October 5th of 2016. Law enforcement gets there and the defendant is feeling suicidal. He wants to go to the hospital. So they take him right to the hospital. Once he has gone to the hospital, Jamie says she's hysterical. She doesn't want the defendant to get in trouble, but she says that they had an argument. And during the argument, the defendant choked her, threw her against the wall, and bit her on the left shoulder. And I think you even have photographs that the defense entered from this. I think there's a photograph of a bite on Jamie's shoulder, and the defendant has injuries as well, which of course he does if he's choking her. I don't remember now if I switched the slides. Oh, look at that. I blew it up for you guys. I went and bothered to get close. And just so you want to know where this is, it's between page 33 and 35 of 229 on these records, which would make it 34. You can't read the 34, though, so I helped you out. But yeah, if you couldn't read it before, there it is. History of violence victims. The patient has been physically, verbally, and emotionally abusive to his wife for the past year. Patient states that he will grab her so hard that he leaves bruises and has hit and choked her in the past. And he lost his job at the end of July. That would coordinate with the Chuppas. And then this slide, same period of hospitalization. Defendant states, I am a horrible person. I am mentally and physically abusive to his wife. He feels his anger gets out of control. He claims he overdosed with intent to kill himself. Reports depression for 2 months since losing his job for arguing with the owner. That's the Chuppas. That's why he lost the job, for arguing with the owner. He said. And then states that he has been angry his whole life. He was homeless in the past before he was married. He's been married since November. He reports a good relationship with his wife when he is not abusive. He wants to learn to control his anger and not abuse his wife. He denies abuse as a child or an adult. Which makes sense. Again, the Svensons, Paul and Lisa are good people. Recent THC use, once recently. He reports rage episodes, has abused a dog in the past, has physically abused his wife. He was kicked out of his parents' home for using weed. That's what the records for October 5th look like. That's what the defendant says about what's been going on in that home with Jamie for that period of time. And he gets discharged from that stay October 12th, 2016. Actually goes into custody again because there was the domestic violence incident. And then he goes back to Parma Hospital when he gets out of custody. But he ends up moving, or I'm sorry, there is a February 15, 2017, he has a visit, and here you can see just interesting information. He says, no real, this is the wrong one. Is this? No, I'm sorry, this is still from October 5th and 6th. Up at the top. Patient. Police tell me that our patient punched his wife and she is 14 weeks pregnant and was taken to Metro. Police say that she too has scratch marks and bite marks all over arms and neck, just as the patient does. And then we can go back to the bottom here, which is actually on the 6th, I'm making this note. Patient wife called requesting to speak to the patient. Wife informed he is not allowed to take any calls at the time. If you read the other notes, he doesn't want to talk to her. Patient's wife asked that I pass a message to the patient. Their daughter was seen in the emergency department for a dislocated elbow, but is fine now. Why is she telling him that? Patient informed the message stated that his wife is an effing liar, and there's no way that could have happened. Why is he saying that? She's trying to indicate to him, you did hurt the child. And he's lashing out, no, you're a liar. So then the next record after that, patient verified his daughter's name and date and birth date, was informed that she was, in fact, seen in the emergency department for an elbow dislocation. Now patient's requesting a phone call to his wife. And now February 15th. It's interesting at the bottom, last couple sentences. Not really anxious, no real conflicts with wife. Wife has her mother, who is supportive of their family. What Laura got for being supportive of this defendant and the family that Jamie was trying to keep was hammer blows to the head. Mother-in-law takes either his wife or his daughter from time to time. And March 2nd, 2017, if you look through the records, you can see it's another, the defendant calls 911, says he's thinking about suicide. They come, they get him. And he says, when they go through the checklist with him, screen, is he safe at home? Yes. Afraid of someone hurting you? No. Suspected abuse or neglect? No. And if you read through the other of those records, you'll see that the issue was, he says the issue was a recent breakup and verbal fight with wife. Lo and behold, his wife comes to his bedside to make sure he's okay. Records show that. And then later he says he worked it out with his wife and he feels much better now. Manipulation. When he's violent, when he's nasty, when he causes problems, when he might be in danger of arrested, now he's suicidal. And then, oh, poor Shelby.